Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Can You Hear Me? I'm Eileen Rochford, the CEO of the marketing agency, The Harbinger Group.
And I'm Rob Johnson, president of Rob Johnson Communications. As you may know, we spend more than a little time talking about how important culture is to organizations. We just welcomed Darcy Luoma to discuss it in our last episode. Today, though, we're going to be talking about fostering joy in your culture.
And it is no coincidence that our guest today is actually named Joy. She is Joy Meserve, a corporate trainer and leadership coach with 20 plus years of experience in the corporate world as a COO. She has also helped build and then successfully sell the company ID Tech, which provides technology education for kids and teens across the globe. Joy, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited that you're here.
So happy to be here. Thank you and hello.
I also wanted to mention that the reason that I made your acquaintance is because you are a member of Chief, and I'm a member as well. And it's recent content that you put up intrigued me, and I said, "There's a woman we need to meet." So I'm very excited to hear everything you have to say today. But we briefly touched upon your accomplishments, very briefly, because there are so many more, and the depth just behind the building and selling of ID Tech is tremendous. But why don't you give our readers a little more context about the evolution of your career and how you got where you are right now?
Sure. Thank you. Well, over 20 years, I took a leap on a startup. This was during the .com crash. And I decided this would be a great idea. But it was actually wonderful. I was given a gift. I was given a gift of ownership and autonomy and trust. And that really propelled my career and put me on a path toward mastery. So we grew the business to serving over 50,000 students every year. And I really grew up there. And I became a COO there for my last 8 years with the company. And the reason I stayed, people would ask me this all the time. Why have you stayed so long? 22 years is a long time. And without a doubt, I stayed because of the people. And the people within it were what created this wonderful award-winning culture that we had. And everyone there felt a sense of ownership and pride over our programs and our services and everything that we did.
Isn't that amazing, though, to think about you stayed because of that culture, the culture that we're going to be talking about a little bit more today. And there's so many places where you could have it and so many places don't. So I bet when you found a place where it did exist, you're thinking, I don't want to give this up.
Yeah. And you helped build that because you were there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you played a major role in that building that incredible culture. Yeah. So that's why we're excited to hear all the things you're going to teach us today, because you did
it. She's walked the walk, and now she's talking with us, and we're so grateful. So Joy, this concept may be foreign to some leaders and positions of leadership in companies, but why don't you explain what a joyful culture looks like and why it's a priority in what you instruct others on?
Yeah, well, it's a place where people are working to ensure that the business thrives. And so in that environment, what you'll find is a lot of creativity, innovation, always seeking to improve and get better. And in every component, whether that's for the clients or whether that's for each other. I used to say that we were in service to one another just as much as we were in service to our clients. So this looks like a highly engaged group of employees, and they're working to really drive success. And they're also having fun while doing it. I mean, we would laugh in our Zoom meetings. We would laugh in our in-person meetings. We would get together and we wanted to spend time with one another. So if that gives you an idea, when you want to spend time with your coworkers, I think you found it.
That's beautiful. Incredible. And I love how, I'm frequently going to reference things that you write because I follow what you write on LinkedIn and also your blog and other, just a font of awesome observations and guidance. But I love how you frequently use that phrase, striving for a joyful culture, because that just made me think about culture, even, my company, and then the cultures that I experience that exist in our client companies from a wholly different perspective. The concept of joy just seems like something that you don't normally associate with your job. You know what I mean? But how beautiful is it to be a part of a place where it is?
Yeah, I hope that more people experience joy like I did in their workplace. And this is actually my mission, right? I'm out to help people experience more joy and find fulfillment in work. Because I don't know if you know this, this, but we spend 1/3 of our lives at work. That's a lot of time. So why not have fun and really enjoy and feel fulfilled by that time?
Well, the other thing that I'm grateful about having you on this program with us is I feel like by talking about it, it's normalizing it. And so some people might be like, they're doing a whole episode on a joyful culture. Like, what's that? And I'm glad that we're talking about it. And I'm glad that you can offer really tangible advice here because you've been living this. And so that gives me a great deal of satisfaction that we hopefully make more people think about it and understand it in a way where they say, you know what, I want to implement that.
That's lovely thought. Well, let's transition to talking about some of the practical ways that we can foster that kind of joy. So as you know, on this show, Can You Hear Me? We're always talking about communication, and we see the value in communication being a major driver of many positive things. And it can also lead to terrible things in almost every company. So Joy, how would you say that leaders can shape culture through their communications? And specifically, I'm really interested to hear things that leaders should always do and always avoid.
That's a great question, Eileen. So I would say that first of all, leaders should ensure that they're bringing their full authentic selves, their true selves, not trying to hide who they are. And one of the ways to do that, because we all have a sense of humor, is to bring your sense of humor to work. I will tell you that sense of humor, scientifically proven, I'm all about science, is that humor and laughter is the fastest way to garner trust. So, I mean, it's pretty profound. And I think that what I would say to avoid the myth that you have to be serious in order to be taken seriously. I find that really common in professional and the corporate world, is that we all have to come in with some sort of stone-faced persona and really, drive the revenue and, talk about these serious things. And the opposite is actually true, is your people are going to want to involve themselves if they're having fun and enjoying the journey on the job.
I'm so glad you're giving everybody, kind of carte blanche to do this, because it's so easy to disarm people with humor, appropriate humor, of course. And sometimes it catches people off guard, and then it signals to them that you don't have to be so serious. So I'm glad that you're bringing this up.
And Joy, I'll just add here that as you spoke those words, I immediately was taken back to my younger self when I was 25 and really trying to be that part that I'd been given in my title, and I had, not a small number of people I had increasingly become responsible for. And I can't tell you the number of days where I put on that mask that you just described, because frankly, at that time, because, I'm 52, I'm not that young. The time period, there was so much going on, particularly with women, that we were just, led to believe you had to behave that way, especially because you're a woman, because otherwise you'd be looked at as frivolous and not serious. So that's really interesting I went back like in a time warp as you said that. I'm thinking, and I'm so glad that I don't have to do that anymore. And I hope we have lots of young women listening right now who are going to take your amazing advice. Please continue. I know you have much more to say.
I hope so too. Well, the second thing that I would recommend to shape culture through communication is to be consistent, is to do what you say you're going to do. And I'll give you a prime example. Let's say you're a super busy leader, you're a super busy manager, you've got these one-on-ones on your calendar, but lo and behold, you have to do something that's a higher priority, right? So you say to the person, okay, I'm so sorry, I have to cancel our one-on-one. What you do next is critical. Do you tell them, okay, I will reschedule this? And then do you actually reschedule it, right? Because when you don't, you're saying there's bigger priorities than you. Number one, that's from a get-go because you've canceled the one-on-one. But the next thing you're saying is that you're not worth it, right? You're not valuable for my time. I have better ways to use my time. And sadly, this is the number one thing missing in corporate culture right now is time, because especially since the pandemic, we have our CEOs and our managers spending tons of time in meetings. So Zippia says that CEOs spend 72% of their time in meetings. 72%, right? Upper management spends 50. So right there, you're having these direct reports who are lacking this one-on-one time. And this one-on-one time is critical time to shape each person to to find out who they are, find out what makes them tick. What are they working on? What do they need help with? Where's the coaching that they need? And so if they're not getting that time and that coaching from you, where are they getting it from?
Yeah. I love that point about reschedule immediately. And I don't care if you have an assistant or not. Take the second and do it, because it's in the moment. I think that also is very meaningful. It just shows that I'm not going to forget about you, and I'm making a point not to forget about you, because
it's also
you matter.
It's also a great point, because and what I try to do, or what I hope that people that my clients and people I communicate with, if you have to cancel something, that's understandable. But what I try to do, and what I try to get others to do, is, all right, while we're here, we're on the Zoom call, we're on the phone, we're texting back and forth. Let's figure out a time right now. So I just had to cancel, or you had to cancel. Let's figure out the next time right then. So you don't kick the can down the road. So you do show that immediate concern about, this is a priority. It's just something I can't do right now. So that's something that I always try to do, and try to get others to do as well. If we say we have to cancel, that's understandable. Let's figure out right now when we reschedule, and then you don't worry about, okay, this person didn't think that was a priority to meet with me.
I love that, Rob. I love that. I think that's great that you're taking the time to do it in that moment, because look, we're busy, we're balancing, we're spinning all these plates. We're likely to forget. And in that moment, that's, it's unintentional. It's
Right.
not an intentional forgetting necessarily. But the consequences of that are huge.
They really are.
I have a follow-up, if I may. Is that okay, Rob?
Of course it's okay.
Oh, thank you. You're the best. So I read a LinkedIn post that you put up, Joy, and pardon me, I can't recall how recent it was, but it was about a Boss Me In panel that you had been on, or been a part of, at a chief event in Los Angeles, I believe it was. And you highlighted some really interesting, I'll just put in air quotes if y'all can't see that, but differences, things that are important to Gen Z in the workplace, and how they are, what are the conditions that need to exist in order for them to feel engaged, essentially, was kind of how you led that piece.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing what you're saying right now, and I'm thinking, I know your conclusion in the piece was great. It was basically, hey, we all want the same things, but they might be presented slightly differently, based on your where you fall in terms of age. Is there anything for Gen Z that you can highlight that is especially important to do on this topic that we're on right now?
Yeah. So Gen Z specifically wants to feel like they're in a workplace that's meaningful to them, that it's giving them purpose. They have really thick boundaries, is what we discovered. And will those boundaries always remain that thick? I don't know. They're pretty young. They might have to loosen up their boundaries a little bit as they go through corporate life. However, it's really, really key. I love that they're not willing to compromise on some of these things. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And so they're asking us for more as leaders. They're asking us to help them find this purpose. And so I've coined the phrase or the term partner leadership. And that's what I'm all about. It's my philosophy. And what these Gen Zers want is what partner leadership delivers. It's saying to them, I see you, I hear you, and I value you. And here's how I'm going to partner with you to help you succeed. I'm going to notice your strengths. I'm going to take note of that. And the first thing I'm going to do is to offer you ownership over something. Just like I had when I was 23 years old at this startup, I was given ownership and autonomy day one. It's giving them that gift, saying, I believe in you. I think you can do this project, whatever it is. Why don't you give it a shot? And I will be there to back you up along the way. I'm going to give you that psychologically safe environment you need. I'm going to give you, a place you can come and ask me questions. I'm going to help remove any bottlenecks or obstacles you run into. And lastly, when you complete this task, this wonderful thing that you're going to do, I'm going to shine a spotlight on you. I'm going to put you up in front of the team.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you, maybe I'll put you up in front of the whole company. And if they're senior leadership, why don't I put you in front of the board?
Oh, that's great. And I'm looking at the piece that I was referencing, and recognition was the third most important thing. Supportive coworkers, number one, 66% of Gen Z. Number two is a fun work environment. 53% want that. Who doesn't want that? And the third was recognition.
Yeah.
So nice. I love it.
Yeah, it's
Very
really
good. Thank you.
it's really recognizing their value and what they bring to the workplace, what those strengths are. And everybody wants recognition. I mean, they've done study after study. It ranks way up high, if not the top for folks, is recognize me, and not just recognize me, but appreciate me. I think appreciation goes a little deeper. It gets a little more specific, and it tells the people why this is important. And once they see, oh, that's when I do this thing, that's why it's important. Aha, you're educating them on the bigger picture, and they're seeing their purpose within the company. And I like to say, you don't have to be solving climate change or curing cancer for your company, for somebody to feel purpose, right?
Yeah.
You could be making widgets. As long as that person says, this is how I fit into the widget making process, they're going to feel a sense of purpose and pride.
And I think it's interesting too, as you talked about Gen Z, and we could also throw millennials in there in terms of what they require from the workplace, because Eileen and I talk about it all the time on this program. And, it's not just a one-off here or there. I mean, this is a whole generation of people that have specific needs. So as a leader, you can either say, we're going to do it my way, or you can say, I'm going to adjust, give them what they need, which in turn, in my opinion, would make them far more productive workers. True?
For sure.
Absolutely. That's it. The transactional leadership that you're talking about, the command and control, is that old way of leading, that's about, 25 years ago or so. And so things have evolved since then. We've all been trying to find our footing with how to lead better than just transactionally. And this is it. We're here. And Gen Z and millennials are asking for that.
Yeah. Well, I know that you had a couple other do's and don'ts relative to the kind of being a psychologically safe environment. So why don't you continue with those? Because that's really, I know we kind of got off on the partner leader thing, which is a really crucial point about what you're instructing others on. But also making it a safe environment for people to be productive.
Yeah. So it's we talked about educating on the big picture. It's cascading communication down from the top, but also pulling up communication from all levels. Okay, so this is what we're thinking of doing as a company. This is where we think we're headed, but we allow and want your feedback. You're the one making the thing or doing the service. Please tell us how we can make that better. And then lastly, it involves saying things, simple things. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. It's saying, I trust you. What's your opinion? I'm here for you. Or if you make a big mistake, it's I'm sorry. We got to show a little bit of vulnerability and accountability for what we do as leaders. On the avoidance part, I've seen go wrong, which is playing favorites or keeping some folks in the dark, saying, I'm going to specifically tell this group of people, what's going on, but, we're going to keep this. And if they're at the same level is what I'm talking about. If they're at the same level, everybody should be on the same page at the same time. And then when you're ready, cascade that communication.
That's an important distinction. Thank you.
Really good.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's say you're a manager who can see that the communications at his or her company leaves a little bit to be desired or a lot. What would you say are the best ways to cultivate meaningful communications as a manager?
Yeah. So if you're seeing silos, where one department is working on a thing and the other one is working on a thing, and there's just a lack of communication across the board, that's going to increase liabilities for the organization. As people move forward and they don't involve the stakeholders, they're not speaking cross-departmentally, bad things can start to happen, right? It's like, did you check with IT, right? On whether or not we can have that software integrated with our system? Is that going to work before you buy it? Okay. Did you check with, HR that this is an okay policy for us to start, et cetera? And so the ways to curb that and bring more meaningful communication are around pulling groups together. There's got to be some element of team bonding happening, creating those environments and those events where that can happen. But it's also around the communication. Like, we've all got to be on the same page and align. So that could come from your all hands meetings, done by the CEO, the COO, somebody in that C-suite there. It could be the strategic planning that everybody's in on and takes ownership in and, is really worker led. And then secondly, one manager can really make a difference to start the bridge, I call it. So it's reaching out to each department saying, okay, we're both departments here. What can we do that could help you? What could we do better that we're not doing that you think we could do better? What could we do better? And how can we help you in your goals? And I did this at ID Tech with our operations team every year. And we would reach out as a team and say, what can we do? And it was like, oh, you're asking me for my input on how you behave and what you do? Light bulb, trust. The bridge happens. And it's this great thing. Of course, you've got to follow through on what they ask you to do, and you got to keep that on your radar. But it really is an effort, I think, that's worth taking.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have another follow-up on the queen of that. So I read something else that you wrote recently. And so, staying on this thread of meaningful communications from managers. And your piece talked briefly about abolish the group meeting. What's the point of the group meeting, right? And I'm curious about that because I really believe that that's right. So I want to hear what you have to say about, not just the group meeting, but also what are really meetings supposed to be for? And how can managers do a better job when holding them or preparing for them, whatever?
Yeah. I think you asked the perfect question. What is the meeting for? Right. And that's going to give you the answer, because too many times, and I've sat in many, the group meeting is a status report. Let's go around the room or around the Zoom and figure out, what have you done? Okay, where are you with that? Where are you with that? And that meeting is not for everyone there. That meeting is for the person that oversees all of those folks. And they're sitting there getting their status report in 1 hour, while everybody else is almost held prisoner by I don't really, that's not, pertinent to me and my work right now, but I'm hearing about it. Okay, now at least I do know something about it, but it's not really pertinent to my work. And so I think it's about being intentional with these meetings. And my personal favorite group meetings are the meetings where you brainstorm and problem solve. What's the thing we're trying to solve, and what are the ideas? And let's get them all out, and let's kind of coalesce around our best ideas, and then who's going to take them on and move them forward. Those, I think, are the best group meetings.
So what I think you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is yes, status reports, very important, but you could maybe give them in an email. And for this leader who is always talking about, oh gosh, I don't have any time because I have meeting after meeting after meeting, you can actually eliminate some of them. And then the ones you do have, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a role, and everybody has to come there with great ideas and actionable items. Is that, did I get that right?
You got that 100% right. And I will give you a clue is look at your calendar. Do you have any recurring group meetings? It's the recurring group meetings that are typically your status report meeting for somebody. And so that can absolutely be handled offline in a different way, a quick update via email or Slack or whatever method of communication you choose.
So, and I'll make one edit to what you said, Rob, which I think you said in an email.
Yeah.
And we don't use email basically anymore for anything other than a client communication. So project management.
So it's your Asana. So it'd be Asana
we use
for
Asana.
you.
Yep.
Because I'm on it from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the project management platform, in my opinion, if you're running a company today or team today, should have abolished your group meeting by now. And if it hasn't, you're not doing something right. That's just the truth. Yeah. Because you can get your snapshot from whichever project management platform, take your pick. You can just get your snapshot right there by looking at either yourself or the specific project, title, and seeing is it on track? What's remaining? What are the hurdles? That's one of my favorite things when you put in the dependency. It's like, nope, I can't do that because you haven't.
Yeah, totally. You can even see the hurdles right there. And if someone is experiencing a major blocker or hurdle, if you've developed that psychologically safe environment where you said, no, come to me and I will help you, then they'll come to you when it's too much, right? Where it really does need to be escalated to you, but it does need to be discussed in a group meeting. Really doesn't.
And that's a hard thing to teach, isn't it? Especially to newer professionals. Like, when is the moment when you should take that initiative to break down that barrier that exists that's prohibiting a project from moving forward, particularly if maybe the barrier is a very senior person.
Mm-hmm. And to say, I need help, I can't move this forward. Is it on the blockers?
Yeah. And to have kind of the gumption, if you will. I love that old fashioned word. to do it. Like to speak up and say, gosh, I can't do this. And I know this isn't a good thing, but that's an important thing to teach. And how do you do that, Joy? Do you have any advice? How do you teach people to do that?
I think it's giving them empowerment. So all of the things that I teach really should come from leaders, right? It really should be modeled by leaders. It should be talked about by leaders, that you can come to me. And at the first sign of your obstacle forming or your bottleneck forming, I think you should go knock on that door and just be like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm noticing this. Here's what I'm doing about it, but I wanted to keep you in the loop, right? So that it's not a giant surprise if you've done all the activities you thought would help remove the bottleneck or obstacle and they have not worked. Now you can go back to that, your boss and say, okay, so I did X, Y, and Z. It's still here. I need your help.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. I think the worst thing that anyone could do is just sit there and let time elapse.
Absolutely.
Because who do you think they're going to look at for not moving it forward? Like it or not, that's the truth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well. Okay. So a little while ago, you brought up something that is very unique in your approach and your description. You gave it to us on partner leadership and what that means. You just kind of alluded to it just a tad. But what I'd like to hear you talk about is how partner leaders should or do utilize communications in fostering stronger relationships. Because that's kind of a unique take, and we talk about communications here. And I think that would be an interesting perspective for people, listeners, to learn from.
Sure. So this kind of goes back to any time you spend one-on-one. Again, that time is sacred, and you've got to find that time, right? Because in that process of spending one-on-one time with your direct report, it doesn't have to be the pre-scheduled thing. This could be a spontaneous call. It could be a spontaneous text or message coming across. But is to spend that time to get to know them. What do they love working on? But also, what have you seen in them that's a strength? And then try to confirm that. Try to confirm your hypothesis with some projects, with some things. So I'll give you a story of a director. Actually, she was a multi-level skip level direct report beneath me, right? So I already saw that she came in as an excellent verbal communicator. And so I wanted to see if she could give me some feedback on some written communication that we were using to send out to our programs, a little brochure. Here's how to make your camps beautiful and shine, and it should be consistent from location to location. So she looked this little pamphlet over, and not only did she see the typos and those kinds of things, but she put her feet in the shoes of the staff members, right? She shifted her perspective to say, like, I don't know if this would be that clear if I were them. And she suggested some great edits. And I was like, ooh, wow, I found a good content editor. I'm so excited. As you probably know, they're rare to find. Yeah. And so I was really excited. So that year I said, okay, would you mind being on this committee where we're in charge of this 2-day staff training? You'll help edit the content. She said, great. So she got that experience. She loved it. And the next year came around. I had my eye on her and I was like, would you be in charge now of leading the whole thing from soup to nuts, all the edits, all of it, everything? I think you'd be amazing at it. So she took it on. She was seen as a leader. She was doing everything that was, she had full ownership and autonomy. So she was really into it. She absolutely loved it. And the key thing is that seen as a leader in the organization, because then when the next year a promotion rolled around for the next level up, guess who got it? Right. And so it's those sort of experiences that you are the one sort of looking out. You have that big picture view of all of the tasks coming up, all the projects coming down the pike. You can start thinking in advance, who might be good for that, and have your eye on that, sort of test their skills here and there, and then give them the big thing. But all along the way, they need that partner who's there to help remove obstacles, who they can come to freely, and they can really learn and grow and develop their skills. And that's how you grow great leaders.
We love a happy ending too. We love it. And here's the story, and it has a happy ending. So no, that's to your point though. That's really important, and it's putting people in positions to succeed and knowing them well enough to know where they will succeed.
And that was all born from a one-on-one interaction, which is another thing to underscore here, because making the time to have that one-on-one interaction led to the observations from you, in this case, the leader, seeing the potential, exploring the potential, validating, and continuing to challenge and help that person grow in the organization. I love it. So that just underscores for me the importance of the one-on-one time, and why, even though we are crazy busy and we hate meetings in general, spending time in conversations in a one-on-one setting allows you to learn what you otherwise wouldn't know and be able to, kind of cultivate with folks that you lead. I love it. Thank you. Good ones. All right. So before we wrap up, Joy, as always, we'd like for you to let our listeners know, where can they learn more about you, find you, connect with you? And of course, I will include all of this in the show notes so people can have it as reference. But please highlight, where are you?
Yeah. So you can find me at leadingwithjoy.com. Feel free to book a virtual coffee with me. I'd love to meet you and chat with you. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to DM me there. And I will have an online course launching in the new year.
That is
fantastic.
Awesome.
I can't wait to hear more about that.
I love it that you can really get your arms around this idea of joy in the workplace. And like I said earlier, that we can sit here and have a really terrific conversation like we've had. So it has been amazing having you on the podcast today, Joy. Thanks.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. All mine.
And that is going to do it for another edition of Can You Hear Me? I'm Rob Johnson. We love to hear from our listeners. So if you have any thoughts on today's topic or any other topic you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please reach out to us on social media. We now have a Can You Hear Me podcast page on LinkedIn.
And I'm going to give a plug as well for our loyal listeners to consider giving us a review. As you know, podcasts like ours really depend on you guys telling others what you like about our show so that more people can find us when they're searching for great B2B podcasts about communications, as I'm sure everyone's doing regularly, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks. I'm Eileen Rochford. Everyone, we appreciate you listening. And remember, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more.